Chapter 162. Great hero, you finally got to drink on the lake viewing restaurant. He drank to his heart's content and even mustered up the courage to toast Xianxia while he was tipsy. Then, the others all came up to him and toasted him. Words of flattery flowed from their mouths. Sir Xianxia, do you have another nickname, the Black Tiger? There were even people who recognized Xianxia and remembered Xianxia's extremely distant nickname. Xianxia brushed them off casually. He picked up another piece of fish and gave it to Little and beside him. Try this. It's not bad. It had been so many years since he had regained the taste he had lost after so much difficulty, so he obviously had to make it up to him. Little and lowered his head and ate it obediently. Although he was expressionless, the redness on his face never faded, as if he had just drunk fine wine. The old monk went up and studied Little and, Sir Li, the young benefactor beside you seems to be very Buddhist. He could be considered as a monk with some cultivation. He could vaguely sense the influence the path of white bone and great beauty had on Little, and Xianxia laughed aloud. My Little and will become a bodhisattva in the future. The old monk was surprised. He brought his palms together and said, I've sinned. Sir, you can't speak carelessly. Xianxia smiled. How can a sparrow know the ambitions of a great swan? Isn't that right, Little N? Hua Qinglu was also surrounded by everyone. When she heard that, she glanced at Xianxia and shook her head. She had no idea whether this kid was audacious or simple-minded. Did he not know that he had already caught the attention of a 9th-layer Qi practitioner? If it were not for her, he would have been skinned alive a long time ago instead of talking about sparrow or great swan. At this moment, a handsome young man arrived before her gracefully. He suppressed his voice and said something deeply. Hua Qinglu's smile gradually turned into a smile as she answered with a question, Do you think you're worthy? His voice was not loud, but everyone present at the scene had sharp ears and eyes. They cast their gazes over one after another. Everyone knew what the youth was trying to do, especially the other few young heroes. Their faces revealed a mocking expression. If you want to cling to the Hua family's high branch, you should look at yourself in the mirror. They then rejoiced in their hearts that they did not take the risk. Xianxia said in his heart, You are too much of a beast. You don't even let a 13 or 14-year-old girl go. In my previous life, you would have been shot. However, this lass was really realistic. She was not the type of young lady who was moved by true love and eloped with a scholar. The young man's face flushed red as he covered his face in shame and left. Yu Zijin said, Just turn him down. Why must you treat him so harshly? Hua Qinglu said, He was up to no good in the first place, so why should I be polite with him? Moreover, he doesn't even dare to say, I'm worthy. He belittles himself, which is especially annoying. Towards the end, she seemed to think of something, and her face became slightly resentful. This small interlude did not affect the atmosphere of the entire celebratory banquet. After the banquet, the masters all bid farewell to each other, saying that they were going back to eliminate the remnants of the underworld. Actually, they were in a hurry to take advantage of the situation and divide up the territory and wealth left behind by the masters of the underworld. A few young chivalrous men looked at Hua Qinglu with reluctance to part with her. During the noisiest moment, Xianxia approached Hua Qinglu and whispered into her ear. Hua Qinglu had been toasted a few times as well, so her face reddened slightly. When she saw him approach her, she was rather displeased, but after hearing what he said, she was surprised. She glanced at Little and before nodding with a smile. The young heroes were very envious. This kid sure knew how to take advantage of the situation. If he could become the son-in-law of the Hua family, wouldn't he be able to rise through the ranks in a single bound? Over the past few days, they had made many attempts, but they were all rejected by Hua Qinglu proudly. For once, she even smiled. When Xianxia wanted to give something to Hua Qinglu waved her hand and turned him down. Xianxia did not insist either. He only glanced at her deeply, which made Hua Qinglu feel embarrassed. She avoided his gaze and placed something into his 100 treasures pouch in the end. She glanced at him in concern and tried to say something again. When she saw Xianxia shake his head with a smile, she finally said nothing more. The Hua family would never stand up for something as small as this, and Zhuozhibwa of the Hawkwolf Guard seemed to dislike this kid very much too. The school could completely afford this price. When the banquet ended, everyone left the restaurant and mounted their own carriages. Hua Qinglu walked out of the restaurant. Yu Zijian asked curiously, "What were you talking about earlier?" She thought the same as the young heroes. Did she already know about the matters between men and women at such a young age? Hua Qinglu said in thought, "Nothing." Yu Zijian said, "What do you mean nothing? You were very, very nice just then. He's not bad, but he's too vicious. He doesn't suit you." Hua Qinglu finally understood what she was trying to say. She smacked her head viciously. "You're so young, so what are you thinking about? He doesn't suit me, but does he suit you? You're the one who's in love, so don't blame it on me. He wanted to buy a gift for the child before bidding farewell to me. I was afraid that the old woman would catch him, so I tried to persuade him to come with me, but he refused." Yu Zijian rubbed her head and gazed at the restaurant in concern. "He'll be fine, right?" Under the heavy night rain, Grandma Shimin's carriage stopped in a dark alleyway. She locked onto Li Qingshan's presence in the restaurant firmly. She refused to believe that the little princess of the Hua family would actually spend all her time with a man. As long as there was the slightest chance, she would take action. However, taking away a child and taking him on as a disciple was not exactly a great crime. Seeing everyone disperse, Grandma Shimin suddenly discovered that she had completely lost track of Li Qingshan's presence. It was like he had vanished in a single moment. She could not help but rush out of the carriage. Like a red ghost, she tore through the rain without touching the ground. She flew around the restaurant a few times, but she could not sense any of Li Qingshan's presence at all. She landed on the eaves and called out, "That's impossible. How could a mere second-layer Qi practitioner be able to conceal his aura so thoroughly and avoid being locked onto by her? Li Qingshan, get out here." Her voice reverberated through the entire city. Who knew how many people had woken up, but why would Li Qingshan respond to her? Instead, Hua Qinglu smiled and called out to the eaves, "How's it going, old woman? You can't find him anymore, right?" Yu Zijian let out a sigh of relief and glared at Hua Qinglu. "How can you just hit people?" Grandma Shimin glared at her viciously before taking off again, searching through an even larger region. However, in the pitch-black rain, the streets were like a complicated maze. Li Qingshan was like a fish that had returned to the water, vanishing completely. Hua Qinglu rolled her eyes at Yu Zijian. Slow-witted, she took out a small, intricate carriage from her 100 treasures pouch and tossed it onto the ground. The carriage rapidly expanded like a ship, but it was pulled by 2 wooden horses. The wheels rolled, and the carriage set off into the rainy night. In the carriage, Yu Zijian had stayed up half the night. Without the protection of true qi, she was in low spirits, so she fell asleep on the soft, golden silk cushions. Hua Qinglu leaned against the windowsill and thought back to everything that had happened tonight. From bombarding the island of cherishing flowers to hosting the celebratory banquet, who dares to say I'm useless? I've done a lot of great things too. Afterwards, she smiled complacently. Only now did she seem like a child. Then, she thought about what Li Qingshan had said to her in the restaurant just now. "Can you sell me one of the puppets? I don't have a lot of items on me that I can exchange for. I only have a few spiritual stones and a few dozen talismans. Will that be enough?" That audacious, heartless young man who was so tough that he was almost arrogant even when faced with the pressure of a 9th-layer Qi practitioner was extremely sincere when he said that. He even seemed to be pleading a little. It made her think of another person. That person would also lower his proud head for the sake of a little girl, doing everything he could to make her happy. Sorrow that did not match her age appeared on her face, but she was no longer pretending to be mature. She sighed. "Big brother Qingzan." At this moment, her eyes lit up. Outside the window, Li Qingshan stood in a straw cape with little and beside him. He was also wearing a small straw cape. They stood in a pitch-black alleyway, clasping their hands at her with a smile. She also stood up and clasped her hands to return the gesture. The carriage had already shot past them. All that was left before her was the rain-soaked walls, but the sight remained in her heart. The young man stood in the pitch-black wind and rain, but he seemed to radiate with a strong, optimistic light. He was like a stubborn rock, unaffected by anything. Although he was still very weak, he gave off a feeling that he was no less powerful than her elder brother, even surpassing him in certain aspects. Influenced, she also made up her mind. "I'll definitely help you, elder brother." Li Qingshan pushed down his bamboo hat and held Little An's hand. "Let's go. Do you want me to carry you?" Little An shook her head. They held each other's hands and vanished into the pitch-black curtain of rain. 5 kilometers away from Lakeside City, there was an abandoned temple. 2 straw capes, one large and one small, hung in front of the temple. In the temple, a bonfire roared, purging the dampness and darkness. It cast 2 figures, one large and one small, onto the earthen walls. Li Qingshan smiled mysteriously. "Close your eyes." Little An closed her eyes obediently. "You can open them now." Clang, 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 clang. "Look at what this is." Little An opened her eyes and saw Li Qingshan holding a small wooden figure in his hand. It was one of the puppets on the ship. Her eyes lit up with delight. Li Qingshan placed the puppet on the ground, and it immediately grew to the size of a grown man. Under his orders, it clattered around. "This is a birthday present." "Yep, it's the day of a new birth, the 8th of the 8th month. It's a good day. I asked for this from that Miss Hua. Although she's a little childish, she's not a bad person. I'll definitely return her favor in the future. So, what do you think?" Little An blinked her eyes, and her long eyelashes fluttered. She opened her mouth, wanting to say something, but after a while, she still couldn't speak. "You still can't say it?" Li Qingshan felt a little regretful and hated that which even more. Little An lowered her head sadly. Li Qingshan patted her head and encouraged her with a smile. "Don't force yourself. It'll be fine slowly. Even if you don't say anything, I know what you want to say." Little An got up and fiddled with the puppet. She controlled the puppet to stretch its legs and pick up things. After a while, she became happy and forgot all her worries. Although she always forgot to control her face to reveal a smile. Chapter 163. Stopping the child's cries at night. Li Qingshan smiled to one side. He was satisfied and at peace inside. Although he had no idea how to describe their relationship, the conclusion he reached was extremely clear. She was his family, a family that brought him warmth. As a lonely transmigrator, his parents had passed away when he was young, and he was oppressed by his only blood relative. After settling his grievances, he seemed to have no more ties. However, her arrival changed everything. To him, she was originally just a pitiful life that needed to be taken care of, yet he would often receive her care and help. She was the one who found the spiritual ginseng, allowing him to pave his path of cultivation. Back then, he even thought about returning the favor several times over in the future, but now, he had forgotten about that thought a long time ago. Right now, even if she took out 100 spiritual ginseng, he would eat them all without holding back, as there was no need to calculate things like that between family. Sometimes, he wondered whether Oxen had already predicted this. If it were not for her, he would probably be 10 times more vicious right now. With the abilities of the spirit turtle's method of Qi suppression, it was not impossible for him to go around killing Qi practitioners and steal pills. He could even satisfy his various desires without restraint, becoming a demon through and through. He had no confidence in his own morals at all. No one was born to be a hero or an absolute good person. He believed that the environment would change people. Absolute strength and loneliness would definitely lead to absolute freedom and indulgence. However, right now, he needed to take care of her safety, so he could not take too many risks. He needed to set an example for her, so he could not do whatever he wanted. It was because of her existence that he could still live as a human. He did not just fight for her. As the leader of the family, he needed to shoulder his responsibilities and seriously consider the present and the future. He did not have many regular Qi gathering pills left, and in order to break through to the 5th layer of the innate method of practicing Qi, he had used up a bottle of 100 grasses pills. He needed to find new pills as soon as possible so that he could maintain his cultivation speed and deal with the great threat that was the door. The simplest and most direct method was obviously to obtain them from the Hawkwolf Guard. There were 27 missions this time. Although a few people were absent, only 21 of them had been completed, and the contribution from each mission was very small. It still amounted to over 300 points of contribution in total. 5 merit points could be exchanged for a single chi gathering pill. Added to his original 250 merit points, he could exchange for over 100 chi gathering pills. However, Xianxia was stuck here, which made Li Qingshan very uncomfortable. No matter how many missions he completed, he couldn't get what he deserved. Originally, he had been wholeheartedly focused on helping Little and recover his physical body and had not been in the mood to deal with Xianxia's provocation. Now that he had accomplished this goal, it was time to crush this obstacle in his way. Thinking of this, his heart was filled with murderous intent. Xianxia, you should just obediently die for me. I can't take care of a 9th layer aura refining cultivator, but do you think I can't take care of you? Little and immediately noticed the change in Li Qingshan and turned around. Li Qingshan laughed and said, "Let's take a stroll outside first to avoid being blocked by that old hag. After a while, we'll go back and kill Xianxia." Little and nodded happily. The next day, the rain showed no signs of stopping. Li Qingshan set off with Little and, because there was nowhere in particular they wanted to go, they would stop and rest whenever they came across a place with good food or fun. They would stop and go, just like they were on a holiday. One day, when he was resting in a tea house on the side of the road, he suddenly heard someone at a neighboring table mention his name. He could not help but perk up his ears. That tiger butcher, Li Qingshan, is the reincarnation of a star of slaughter. He began killing as soon as he was born, and he began killing people at the age of 9. Ever since he joined the Hawkwolf Guard, he's gone out of control. First, he destroyed the entire Qian family, slaughtering over 1,000 members of the Qian family, regardless of gender or age. He even laughed as he killed them. There were so many corpses that he couldn't even fill up the pit. As it turned out, a few people of the Jianghu were taking shelter from the rain here. A sallow, skinny man was currently drinking some bad alcohol as he spoke in great delight. Li Qingshan's expression was strange. His nickname seemed to have changed again. The tiger butcher was much more pleasing to the ears than the descending tiger and the black tiger, but since when did he kill the entire Qian family? He had clearly only killed 3 of them. The rest were all the handiwork of Qian Rongji. And he even laughed as he killed them. Why did he make himself sound like a man-killer fiend? However, becoming the main character of the rumors of the Jianghu was quite an interesting experience, so he perked up his ears and listened on. If you cowards saw so many corpses, you'd piss your pants in fright. However, that Li Qingshan is no ordinary person. He killed over 1,000 people, but he still felt like it was not enough, so he set up a great scheme on the island of Cherishing Flowers. The island lord of Cherishing Flowers, Shen Shihua, the soaring rat, Zhao Ruyong, the iron palms of the mountain splitters, Tian Zhonghao. You've all heard of these people before, right? After receiving confirmation from everyone, the sallow, skinny man continued. He tricked them all onto the island of Cherishing Flowers and cooked them all in one pot. And he laughed as he killed them. However, someone objected at this moment. I heard that the island of Cherishing Flowers was flattened by cannons. What do you know? They were all killed first, then flattened. The master of my uncle's friend was on that ship at the time. The sallow, skinny man was proud. He continued, "Did you know? The pit outside ancient Wind City was dug open later on, but there was not a single corpse in there. It's the same on the island of Cherishing Flowers. Do you know why?" The sallow, skinny man suddenly lowered his voice, whetting everyone's appetite before spitting out 2 words, cannibalism. It led to a series of gasps. Cannibalism. The corner of Li Qingshan's eye twitched, while little Anne's lips curled up. Her eyes were filled with mirth. Li Qingshan pinched her cheeks. Even if they're cannibalism, you're the one who ate them. Although there were many ridiculous parts to this rumor, there were certain parts that were shockingly close to the truth. Little Anne stuck out her tongue. Someone at the next table questioned, there were over 1,000 people there. How could they have eaten all of them? The sallow, skinny man stuttered as well. He was unable to answer. Li Qingshan shrugged. Sure enough, rumors stopped with the wise. Afterwards, very soon, Li Qingshan understood what wishful thinking meant in a restaurant. I heard that the tiger butcher is 6 meters tall, and his waist is also 6 meters wide. He has a green face and sharp fangs. He has a head of bronze and a forehead of steel. He walks like the wind and roars like thunder, and he loves to eat raw human flesh the most. He'll only be full after eating 4 or 5 people in a single meal. You're talking about a demon, right? In a corner of the restaurant, Li Qingshan rubbed his forehead. He felt like if he allowed them to continue spreading the rumor, his true identity would be exposed. Little and could already smile very naturally. In the dead of night, a child cried endlessly in a certain residence. He made a fuss about eating candy, or he would not sleep. The mother said, "If you eat candy at night, your teeth will go bad." The child refused to comply. The mother finally lost her temper. If you keep crying, I'll get the tiger butcher to eat you." The child immediately stopped crying and fell silent. Only after quite a while did he say softly, "Mother, I don't want to eat candy anymore. I don't want the tiger butcher to eat me." The mother smiled in satisfaction. On the street outside the residence, Li Qingshan finally understood what it meant to be demonized. His name now seemed to have the effect of stopping children from crying at night. He had taken a deep root in the hearts of the common people, helping countless families to discipline their children better. There were many powerful people in the Hawkwolf Guard, but they mainly targeted Qi practitioners. They were relatively distant from the lives of ordinary people, and they would only kill a few people in a single mission at most. However, Li Qingshan had only taken action twice, yet he had led to the deaths of over 1,000 people. Moreover, there were countless eyewitnesses, which could be described as extremely effective propaganda. As a result, his reputation soared and became unstoppable. In Qingyang City, Iron Fist. The first disciple, Wang Lei, asked, "Is this all true?" Lu Hong said, "Aside from the cannibalism, the other rumors probably aren't baseless. I could tell a long time ago that the kid was up to no good. He wanted to throw the Jianghu into chaos, but I never thought he would be so vicious, directly wiping out half of the Jianghu. Don't be jealous of your junior brother. The Jianghu isn't that easy to survive in." "Wise be master. I almost attacked him," Wang Lei said with lingering fear. He had never thought the wild kid from the village would become such a terrifying figure. From now on, he no longer envied Li Long for venturing out. The Jianghu was just too dangerous. He was better off remaining in Qingyang City obediently and waiting to take over his master's position. "That's nothing. I even punched him 100 times. Lu Hong was complacent. The matter that originally made him feel rather ashamed had become a great honor. From now onwards, he would mention it to anyone he saw. Many masters passed by Qingyang City and heard that he had punched the tiger butcher Li Qingshan 100 times, yet he was still standing there in one piece without dying. They all admired him very much. Even those whose martial arts were higher than his would have to show some respect to him. Afterwards, before he died, he specially ordered his disciple to carve a line of words on his epitaph, "Once punched the tiger butcher 100 times." For future generations to revere. Before long, a huge statue was erected at the entrance of Crouching Ox Village. It depicted a young man, burly and sturdy. His head rested on a blade, and his eyes were vicious. He possessed a divine form, just like Li Qingshan. Half-village caretaker Lu had spent a great sum of money to invite the most renowned sculptor in the surrounding villages to carve it. On the day the statue was erected, gongs and drums filled the air and firecrackers crackled. Village head Li organized the entire village to pay their respects. Many years later, Qingyang was plagued with bandits again. All the villages were plundered, except for Crouching Ox Village, which the bandits dared not approach because of the statue. The villagers were filled with gratitude, erecting a monument and a temple. Every year before winter, they would pay their respects, which became a great festival known as paying respects to the tiger butcher. That was all in the future. In Jiaping City, Zhuo Zhibua frowned heavily in the office of the Hawkwolf Guard. Recently, Li Qingshan had caused him far too much trouble. Originally, he wanted to kill Li Qingshan with a borrowed knife and kill him. When Grandma Shimin came to investigate the matter of Jiaping, he was certain that it had something to do with Li Qingshan. He even provided her with a portrait and information about the mission, but he never thought he would still fail. He never thought the kid would be so lucky, getting to know the daughter of the Hua family. Even Grandma Shimin was helpless against the kid. Instead, the kid made such a great name for himself. However, he was not particularly worried. Right now, the person sitting before him was Grandma Shimin. Sure enough, as Li Qingshan had expected, Grandma Shimin had searched everywhere for Li Qingshan to no avail, so she was waiting here for him. She was determined to obtain the heavenly fragrance and aspect of beauty. P.S. You've all worked hard. Last month, I've been hovering around the 40s. My original target for this month was to make it into the 30s, but you've given me 23. Thanks, Dream Talker. I'll work even harder at writing. The foreshadowing is about to come to an end. The things I truly want to write will gradually unfold. I want to bring you not only hot-bloodedness and exhilaration, but also warmth, smiles, and emotions. Speaking of which, I paced around the living room several hundred times today, thinking about a plot that I'd write very soon. Afterwards, I couldn't contain my joy. I want to tell you guys, just wait for a good show. Chapter 164. Undercurrents surged. There's no need to hurry, Granny. Just wait here. I refuse to believe that kid won't return to Jiaping for the rest of his life. If he doesn't return, he'll be a fugitive who betrayed the Hawkwolf Guard. We've worked together for so many years, so I have to give your sect an explanation regarding the building. And I've already asked for the building that Zhou Wenbin destroyed. As long as your sect sends someone over, you should be able to reopen very soon. Zhuo Zhibua said rather enthusiastically, both for the sake of dealing with Li Qingshan and for the various benefits of the sect. Grandma Shimin said indifferently, "Thank you for your kind intentions, Commander. The sect will send someone over very soon, so please take good care of me, Commander. However, I'll be leaving Jiaping City very soon." In the world of cultivators, strength was still everything. Although Zhuo Zhibua was useful, he was extremely arrogant. Zhuo Zhibua was surprised. "Why?" Grandma Shimin said, "This is the sect master's order. I can't disobey it." "Why did your esteemed sect master? Was it?" A vicious light flashed through Grandma Shimin's eyes. "That's right, it's all because of that girl from the Hua family. Our sect can't just ignore the pressure from your Vice Commander Hua." "I see." Zhuo Zhibua was filled with pity. He could not get someone else to do his dirty work now. However, he was not bold enough to complain about Hua Songzan. Grandma Shimin said, "Though, that kid's a mere second-layer Qi practitioner. There's no need for me to do anything. You should be able to deal with him, Commander Zhua. Our sect master has already promised that as long as you can hand over the girl with the kid to the sect will give you a bottle of pills of spring breeze and rain in return." Zhuo Zhibua's heart skipped a beat. The pills of spring breeze and rain of the sect were special pills of the sect. They required extremely rare spiritual herbs and special secret techniques to refine. Although they could not strengthen true Qi, they could purge the impurities within true Qi, saving a lot of time in purifying true Qi. Just a single one of them was worth several hundred Qi gathering pills. The sect had really gone all out this time. He wondered what was so special about the girl that the sect valued her so much. However, his expression did not change. "What are you saying, Grandma? Why would I do anything to my own subordinates? I will pay attention to the girl you mentioned and will not disappoint your sect master." Grandma Shimin said, "There's one more matter, which is to pay a visit to the Clear River Prefecture with my disciple." "Disciple?" Zhuo Zhibua felt strange, but then he saw Qian Rongji, who had been serving silently at the side, say sweetly, "Thank you, Grandma." Zhuo Zhibua's face immediately sank. "Rongji, what's going on?" Grandma Shimin has been wandering around Jiaping for several days, and it has always been Qian Rongji who has been entertaining her. Unexpectedly, in just a few days, she has built a good relationship with Grandma Shimin, who has a weird temper, and accepted her as a disciple. However, he has not received the news until now, as if he has become her springboard. Qian Rongji smiled. Grandma knows I haven't joined the sect yet, so she has already agreed to accept me as a disciple. She wants me to cultivate in the sect for a while, so I hope the commander will allow it. Her cultivation aptitude was passable, and she was also rather pretty. She possessed a kind of ordinary beauty. Although she was far from the level of the divine incense kingdom's beauty, she still had the qualifications to be noticed by the West Gate Granny. Moreover, she was extremely good at reading people's minds. Everything she said and did could cater to Grandma Shimon's strange tastes. It was definitely not a coincidence that she had gained Grandma Shimon's attention and accepted her as a disciple. She was like a poisonous vine, grasping every opportunity and doing everything she could to climb upwards so that she could obtain even more sunlight and rain. In her eyes, Qian Yannian was nothing. Zhuozhibua was nothing. Even Grandma Shimon was nothing. They were all just tools she could use. However, Grandma Shimon was a 9th layer Qi practitioner, while Zhuozhibua was only at the 6th layer. There was no need to compare which tool was more useful. With the sect as an umbrella, she no longer needed to fawn over Zhuozhibua. Her expression naturally changed. The Hawkwolf Guard was only an occupation. They could not restrict members from joining sections. For example, Diao Fei came from a sect. Of course, if Zhuozhibua wanted to obstruct Qian Rongji, he would still have many ways to make things difficult for Qian Rongji. However, a sunken Grandma Shimon sat beside him, so he would never be bold enough to do that. Grandma Shimon had only told him that she was taking Qian Rongji away. She was not asking for his opinion at all. Qian Rongji smiled. She was confident. The reason why she had only told Zhuozhibua this news now was so that he would not have the opportunity to obstruct her. If he had the opportunity, Zhuozhibua would definitely do something like that. No man would be willing to let go of a woman who was docile and willing to be toyed with by him. Zhuozhibua squinted his eyes. Rongji, you've managed to climb up the tree. As the commander, I'm obviously happy for you. Only by learning something in the sect can you better complete the missions of the Hawkwolf Guard. I'll allow you a few months of leave, but there won't be any pills. I just happen to be taking you 3 newcomers to Clear River City to see the 2 commanders. You can go first. He finally made up his mind very quickly. Even if he tried to obstruct this matter, there would be no benefit to him at all. All he could do was agree to it reluctantly. Although he knew Qian Rongji's sweet words probably did not come from the bottom of her heart, his dignity as a man still suffered from being abandoned in such a straightforward manner. He developed a sense of resentment towards Qian Rongji. She really was an extremely shameless woman. Before Qian Rongji boarded the carriage, she bowed gracefully. Thank you, Commander. In the future, Rongji will come and serve the commander again to repay your kindness. She added inside, if you're still alive. Even if she had already become close to Zhuozhibua, her identity as a Hawkwolf Guard had not changed. Before she had obtained strength greater than Zhuozhibua's, she should not have treated Zhuozhibua with such contempt. She had a vague feeling that Zhuozhibua would definitely die to Li Qingshan's hands. This was a woman's intuition, and it was an intuition built upon a great deal of analysis and speculation. There was obviously no need for her to be too polite to someone who was about to die. Zhuozhibua said, "No problem." He watched the carriage leave and felt like he had nowhere to vent his anger. He smashed the stone table before him with a palm strike. In a small garden in the Hua estate of Clear River City, Hua Sengzan said to Hua Qinglu, "All right, Grandma Shimon will be returning to Jiaping City for questioning very soon. She won't have the time to make trouble for that kid for now." Hua Qinglu nodded. "That's good." Hua Sengzan said, "It's rare for you to beg me for someone else's matter." "What do you mean someone else's matter? This is your Hawkwolf Guard's matter. I'm not begging you. I'm helping you. And don't you know him?" Hua Sengzan said helplessly, all right, you're helping me. We're not exactly acquaintances. We've only met once, but I never thought that kid would actually emerge. His days under Zhuozhibua's command probably haven't been easy." Hua Sengzan sank into his thoughts. Over half a year had passed. Hua Sengzan's memories of Li Qingshan had basically faded away a long time ago. Just now, Hua Qinglu had mentioned it to her. She felt rather emotional inside. She never thought he would actually emerge from the mountains and actually become a Hawkwolf guard under Zhuozhibua's command, and he even fell out with Zhuozhibua. Hua Qinglu asked, "Why haven't they been easy?" "You wouldn't understand even if I told you about the matters of adults." Hua Qinglu hated hearing something like that the most. What matters of adults? Li Qingshan isn't that much older than me, and he's only a second-layer Qi practitioner. His cultivation is even weaker than mine. Her cultivation had already reached the peak of the second layer. She was only a step away from the third layer. Why don't you go kill a fifth-layer Qi practitioner for me to see? Why would I want to kill a fifth-layer Qi practitioner? A month ago, not only was that kid a Qi practitioner, but he was also a body practitioner. In his first mission for newcomers, he destroyed a Qi practitioner clan and killed a fifth-layer Qi practitioner. The leader of the school is also a fifth-layer Qi practitioner, so it's very likely that he was the culprit. Back then, he was only a first-layer Qi practitioner. This was no longer just the power of cultivators, but also the might of authority. The Hawkwolf Guard had eyes and ears all over the world, but normally, Wasungzan was in no mood to pay attention to this. He had several dozen black iron Hawkwolf Guard branches under his command, so why would he pay attention to a measly city like Jiaping? Only when Hua Qinglu mentioned it did he send people to investigate. Very soon, a detailed piece of information was placed on his desk. The information he obtained left him rather surprised. Hua Qinglu was surprised. No wonder Grandma Shimen would go make trouble for him. That guy was actually so powerful. No wonder he was fearless of Grandma Shimen's pressure, as well as easily escaping from Grandma Shimen's pursuit outside the restaurant. Don't think about it so much. You better prepare for the entrance examination in spring. I've seen the girl you brought back. Her character isn't bad, even a little better than you. This is a muscle tendon changing and marrow cleansing pill for her. Once she ingests it, she should be able to directly practice Qi. Hua Sungzan casually passed a pill to Hua Qinglu. Now this was the true strength that Qi practitioner clans possessed. They could overcome the limitations of innate talent through external means. As for Li Qingshan, he was just an interesting subordinate to Hua Sungzan. He was not worth too much attention to. And as long as Li Qingshan remained alive, he believed he would be able to see him very soon. In a small city near Jiaping City, Li Qingshan gazed at the full moon in the crowd. He thought, it's the Mid-Autumn Festival again. Although he had been frugal, he had still eaten all the Qi-gathering pills he had on him. The effects of several hundred Qi-gathering pills could be regarded as obvious. He secretly transformed once in a place where there was no one around. He had already reached 27 feet, and his strength had increased by quite a lot. He was already close to the second layer of the Ox Demon's Fist of Great Strength. However, once he stopped ingesting pills, his cultivation speed immediately slowed to a frightening pace. It was about time for him to return to Jiaping City. That old granny probably did not have that much patience. He casually broke off a piece of mooncake and passed it to little N. Then he carried her through the sea of people and out of the bustling streetlights, making his way back to Jiaping City. Returning to Jiaping City, Li Qingshan and Little N both erased their presences and snuck back up the mountain. Li Qingshan's nose twitched, and as expected, he smelled a familiar scent. It was Grandma Shimen's unique and heavy fragrance. As expected, Grandma Shimen wanted to wait for him here. Cultivators had many ways to hide their tracks, but smell was the easiest to ignore. Li Qingshan followed the trail of the freshest scent and followed it all the way out of the city. Finally, he confirmed that Grandma Shimen had already left Jiaping City. Li Qingshan looked back at the mountain peak, at the huge, black hawk forged from metal, and smiled. Commander Zhua, the pills on you should be able to help me reach the second layer of the Ox Demon's Fist of Great Strength. Chapter 165. The first battle against Zhuozhibua, but just what was he supposed to do? Li Qingshan began to consider it seriously. Killing his way up the mountain right now and launching a sneak attack on Zhuozhibua was not a bad choice, but he needed to transform. Only then could he unleash enough power. However, his body that was almost 10 meters tall was even taller than the two-story building. Probably even the foot of the mountain could see him. It was far too easy for him to be exposed. However, if he could not kill Zhuozhibua in a single strike, Zhuozhibua only needed to call out, and everyone would know who he was. He had to find a way to lure Zhuozhibua out of Jiaping City, but how was he supposed to lure him out? Little N, do you have any plans? Little N wrote something in the air, and flames flowed from the tip of his finger. In the end, he left behind a single word, wait. Li Qingshan's heart skipped a beat. Yeah, Zhuozhibua really wants to kill me right now, but he probably won't do it in Jiaping City. He'll probably find a way to drive me out of the city, and that will be the perfect time to strike. Li Qingshan rubbed Little N's head. You really are smart. However, he was unwilling to just wait like this. He had to do something. Though, in order to make this bastard make up his mind sooner, let's go back and properly provoke him. A malicious smile appeared on his face. If I don't teach you a lesson, you'll really think I'm easy to bully. Commander Zhua, I've returned. On the pitch-black mountain, a thunderous roar tore through the silence. All the Hawkwolf guards were alarmed, roused from their cultivation or sleep, rushing out. All they saw was Li Qingshan standing in front of the main building where Zhuozhibua resided. He called out, I've already completed 21 missions, but needless to say, my contribution will still be halved, right? And even after that, I can't exchange it for anything, so I might as well just give it all to you. I don't care. Oh right, when I went out this time, I just happened to run into Vice Commander Hua's younger sister. I've got a big mouth, so I couldn't help but tell her everything you did in Jiaping City. I don't think Vice Commander Hua will take it to heart, so please don't take it to heart. Shut your mouth. A figure shot out of the main building with lightning speed, suddenly appearing before Li Qingshan. It was Zhuozhibua. He struck out furiously. His right sleeve was filled with true qi, swinging towards Li Qingshan like a hammer. What are you doing, Commander Zhua? Are you trying to kill me? As Li Qingshan said that, he raised his shield to block. He was only afraid of Zhuozhibua's flying sword. Why would he take a direct clash like this seriously? Dong. The sleeves collided, emitting an extremely dull sound. The sound wave spread out, causing the surrounding leaves to rustle. Thump, 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 thump. He took 4 steps back, each step leaving a deep pit in the solid marble floor. He sighed inwardly at the strength of a 6th-layer Qi practitioner, but he was completely unharmed. He looked at his shield, which was the same. Although it was only a low-grade spirit artifact, it was a purely defensive spirit artifact. It couldn't be destroyed so easily. Of course, that force alone was enough to break the tendons and bones of any 2nd-layer Qi practitioner, but Li Qingshan's body wasn't that weak. Zhuozhibua became even more furious. He formed a hand seal and his eyes flashed. True qi surged like hydrogen, illuminating the small square in front of the building. Li Qingshan felt a wave of heat from afar. He leapt back, only to see a fire dragon circling around Zhuozhibua, illuminating his face. His clothes fluttered in the wind, coated in a layer of scarlet light. It was as if a fire god had descended. The marble under his feet began to show signs of melting, showing just how terrifying the temperature of the fire was. A 6th-layer Qi practitioner wasn't just strong in terms of controlling artifacts, but also in spells. Go! Zhuozhibua pointed his fingers at Li Qingshan, and the fire dragon roared as it charged towards Li Qingshan. It was as fast as lightning. Ordinary people could only see a flash of light, and couldn't see the fire dragon at all. Ha! Li Qingshan roared, and raised his shield forward. The shield in his hands was already as big as it could be, and he slammed into the fire dragon with all his might. At the same time, his body shrank tightly behind the shield. Boom! Sparks flew in all directions, and the fire dragon directly turned into a sea of fire. This time, Li Qingshan was bluntly sent flying, and only stopped when he crashed into a large tree over 30 meters behind him. Leaves rustled down from the top of his head, but he still loudly praised, "Commander Zhua, good move." Apart from some soreness in his arms, he was completely unharmed. This also showed how important it was to choose a suitable spirit artifact. After taunting, he couldn't do without a shield to absorb the damage. However, he seemed to have gone a little too far with the provocation this time. Zhuozhibua seemed like he wanted to kill him, as if he no longer cared about the occasion. He was far too irrational. Zhuozhibua had commanded the Hawkwolf Guard of Jiaping City for all these years, but he had never been provoked like this before. Coupled with the fact that he had just been made a fool of by Chen Rongji, and now he had been humiliated by Li Qingshan like this, he was utterly furious no matter how rational he was. Zhuozhibua saw how the fire dragon was unable to kill Li Qingshan, so he extended his hand and a small, 7-inch blade appeared in his hand. It spun around constantly, rubbing against the air and producing a buzzing sound as if it was eager to kill and drink blood. Li Qingshan's hairs stood on end. He felt an intense sense of danger. The flying blade was several meters away, but it felt like someone was holding it to his neck, ready to chop down at any time. The shield shrank, and he stowed it away in his 100 treasures pouch. At a time like this, a shield that could only block one side was useless. He focused all of his attention on the flying blade in Zhuozhibua's hand. If Zhuozhibua really did use the flying blade, there would only be one thing Li Qingshan could do, which was flee. He had already studied the way of controlling artifacts. A 6th-layer Qi practitioner could control an artifact from around 30 paces away. This was not particularly far, but it was nowhere close to the legendary, invincible sword immortals who could behead people from over 500 kilometers away. However, combined with the terrifying speed of a 6th-layer Qi practitioner, it would truly be a killing machine. If Li Qingshan possessed a skill like that, he would not have had to go to so much trouble to kill 1,000 people on the island of Cherishing Flowers. However, it was not as if Li Qingshan had not considered this. He had already prepared the Swift Breeze Talisman. If he wanted to flee, then so be it. He was very confident in his own speed. By now, he had already retreated 100 paces away, just in case Zhuozhibua flew into a rage out of humiliation and threw caution to the wind. Even if he was hunted down, it did not matter as long as he was not actually killed. If it really did reach that point, he planned on going to Zhou Wenbin to complain to Zhuozhibua and make a big deal out of it. The news of Zhuozhibua deducting his subordinates' merit and even hunting down meritorious subjects would spread wildly. It was not like he, Li Qingshan, would be the one to be humiliated anyway. This was what people called a man with nothing to lose. By then, even the Clear River Prefecture would probably become dissatisfied with Zhuozhibua. He would definitely be judged as incompetent. Gu Jian called out in a hurry, "Commander Zhuo, please calm down." He had never thought Li Qingshan would run so deep. He was afraid that Zhuozhibua would kill Li Qingshan in the Hawkwolf Guard out of anger, and that would be troublesome. The Black Wolf Guards all gathered over. Zhuozhibua forced himself to calm down. He stowed the flying blade away and glared at Li Qingshan viciously. "Greetings, Li Qingshan." Although he had operated in Jiaping City for many years, it was impossible for him to convince everyone and act like they had seen nothing. If he killed someone here, let alone a Black Wolf Guard, even if he killed a regular person, he would be punished by the Hawkwolf Guard if he did not have a suitable reason. As the representative of the school of legalism, the protectors of the law, the Hawkwolf Guard could do whatever they wanted in the dark, but they had to abide by the laws of Great Xia on the surface. Once they crossed the line, there would definitely be no good outcome. 6th-layer Qi practitioners were like gods in Jiaping City, but in the eyes of those above them, they were nothing. Killing them would not be a pity at all. Seeing how Zhuozhibua was indeed afraid of killing him here, Li Qingshan stopped worrying. He brushed away the fallen leaves on his shoulder. "There's no need for Commander Zhuo to worry. I'm perfectly fine. I drank a little too much earlier, so I said a few drunken things. I hope Commander doesn't mind." Zhuozhibua left in a huff. He felt extremely gloomy. Never had he felt like his identity as commander was a shackle to him like today. A man harms a tiger, and a tiger harms a man. If it were two regular Qi practitioners, they would have drawn out their arcane treasures and talismans a long time ago. They would have used everything they had and engaged in a great battle. However, it was exactly because of this identity that neither of them had to worry about the consequences. Both of them needed a suitable place to settle their problems. Li Qingshan returned to his residence and smiled brilliantly at Little and, "All I need to do now is wait." Afterwards, he took out the bottle of 100 grasses pills. Originally, he wanted to save it for when he broke through, but in order to maintain his cultivation speed, he could not care too much anymore. He believed that Zhuozhibu's 100 treasures pouch would have even better spiritual herbs, so there was no need for him to be stingy right now. The next day, Li Qingshan went to the government office to find Zhou Wenbin. He wanted to exchange for some more pills. Zhou Wenbin already knew about his crazy actions last night, but he said, "But that's fine too. You've brought your conflict to the surface, so he won't be bold enough to touch you." Li Qingshan was shocked. Why won't he dare to touch me? He did this so that Zhuozhibu would attack him as soon as possible. The sooner the better, then he would be able to kill him. Zhou Wenbin said, "You've just fallen out with him, and you're about to die. Wouldn't everyone know that he was the one who did it? He must be gritting his teeth and waiting for the right time to make things difficult for you." Li Qingshan felt bitter in his heart. Hopefully, he would not have to wait too long for this opportunity. He was feeling bitter here, but Zhuozhibu, who was on the mountain, gritted his teeth so hard that his gums were bleeding. He growled, "I must kill him with my own hands. I must kill him with my own hands." He did not know when these two would be able to break free from society's view of them and have a vigorous, passionate battle. Li Qingshan flipped his hand and took out all of his spirit stones from his 100 treasures pouch. "I want to exchange for some more pills." Even without Zhuozhibu, he still had to go on. He had finished the remaining bottle of 100 grasses pills last night, so he did not have any pills that could be used for cultivation. Zhou Wenbin said, "Do you really want to exchange? Spirit stones are much harder to come by than qi-gathering pills." Of course, Li Qingshan knew this. He had almost 1,000 qi-gathering pills, but he had less than 10 spirit stones. Moreover, they were all low-grade spirit stones. Chapter 166. Spiritual stones were basically the most stable currency among cultivators. Qi-gathering pills could not compare to them at all. Only lowly black wolf guards like him received qi-gathering pills as wages. Zhuozhibu and Zhou Wenbin both received spiritual stones. Wondrous bookstore no pop-up window to stronger cultivators, low-grade qi-gathering pills brought no benefits at all. They might even be harmful. However, spiritual stones contained pure spiritual qi, so they could always be used. And spiritual stones had many uses. They could be used for forging artifacts, formations, and mechanisms. The puppet Li Qingshan had given little and used spiritual stones as its energy source. The most common way to use it was to provide an endless supply of true qi when fighting. Right now, Li Qingshan mostly fought in close combat, so he did not really need them. Once he reached the 6th layer and could wield artifacts, a few more spiritual stones would be equivalent to an extra life. Li Qingshan had taken out these spiritual stones out of consideration for his current needs. A bird in the hand was worth 100 in the bush. Many of the time, long-term benefits were not as important as immediate benefits. Li Qingshan had no objections, so Zhou Wenbin was obviously willing. In the end, he took out 8 bottles of qi-gathering pills, each bottle containing 12 pills. That was close to 100 qi-gathering pills. He exchanged them for these spiritual stones from Li Qingshan, basically resolving Li Qingshan's urgent problem. In the following days, apart from cultivating in the building, Li Qingshan would stroll around the city with Little and buying everything she liked for her. However, his reputation as the Tiger Butcher had reached Jiaping City as well. He had basically cleared the streets of the city. No matter how busy the streets were, as long as he walked over, he would hear someone call out, "The Tiger Butcher is here." In the blink of an eye, the streets had all been cleared out. Only a child sat in the middle of the road, crying. When he walked over, even the child stopped crying. He had been frightened out of his wits. However, when he entered a shop to buy something, the shopkeeper would often refuse to take his money no matter what. Zhou Wenbin then sent someone to invite him over, telling him not to go out on the streets so as not to disturb the citizens of Jiaping. After that, all that was left of Li Qingshan's life was cultivation. Every day, he would stay in his room and meditate. Fortunately, he had little and to keep him company, so he was not too lonely. But he ate the chi-gathering pills very quickly. Every day, he would eat 10 or 20 of them, and that was when he was frugal. If he wanted to, he could even finish almost 100 chi-gathering pills in a single day. His body was like a bottomless pit that would never be satisfied. As a result, he became a frequent visitor of the county yamen. Li Qingshan said in a clear voice, "Sir, take a look at this calming pill. It's a high-grade spirit pill concocted with a secret formula. When consumed during cultivation, it can calm your chi and focus your mind, and it's very beneficial. Also, this pill of passion can be used in bed. It will greatly enhance your mood." He raised his eyebrows and revealed an expression that all men understood. After some consideration, Zhou Wenbin gave Li Qingshan 4 bottles of chi-gathering pills in exchange, which made Li Qingshan overjoyed. 3 days later, at noon, Zhou Wenbin was sitting in front of the cauldron, concocting pills. Ever since he became the county magistrate, he had never stopped collecting medicinal herbs for him to concoct pills. He had also accumulated a lot of chi-gathering pills, and was ready to sell them at the cultivator's market when the time was right. But Li Qingshan's arrival saved him some trouble, and he was overjoyed, so he hastened to concoct pills. The maid reported, Sir Li is here again. He's waiting for you in the parlor." Zhou Wenbin was rather confused. Why had Li Qingshan come looking for him again? He made his way to the reception and took a look. All he saw was a long table filled with a dazzling array of items. It seemed like a small stall of miscellaneous goods, and the owner was Li Qingshan behind the table. "Take another look, sir. These are all gifts from the Qi practitioners during Qian Yanyan's birthday celebration. Look at these spirit herbs. I can tell with a single glance that they have extraordinary spiritual energy. They must be excellent items for concocting pellets. And look at these jade carvings. Aren't they very vivid? If you like them, you can buy them all. I'll give you a discount." Under Li Qingshan's eloquent explanation, coupled with the fact that they had been trading rather happily all this time, Zhou Wenbin took out a few more bottles of chi-gathering pills and bought everything. A few days later, Zhou Wenbin and Li Qingshan sat across from each other. Zhou Wenbin said, "Today, we'll just drink tea and chat. We won't talk about chi-gathering pills anymore." Li Qingshan was stunned. He hesitated for a moment, then lowered his voice and said, "Sir, do you want talismans?" Zhou Wenbin finally couldn't help but ask, "What do you want so many chi-gathering pills for?" "Chi-gathering pills can't be eaten like rice. You won't be able to finish all the chi-gathering pills you're exchanging with me even after 3 years." Li Qingshan couldn't explain that he really ate chi-gathering pills like rice. He could only say, "I just want to stock up, just in case." Zhou Wenbin said, "On the path of cultivation, you still have to rely on yourself. Medicinal pills are just external items after all. They can only be used as support," Li Qingshan agreed, but in his heart, he was thinking that if it weren't for the miraculous pills Xianxia had given him, he wouldn't have been able to cultivate the Yao core so quickly. And without the help of these external items, it would have taken him at least another 100 years to become a demon general. After Zhou Wenbin finished speaking, Li Qingshan asked again, "You really don't want them?" Zhou Wenbin sighed and shook his head firmly. As a district magistrate, he hadn't fought anyone for many years. He didn't need talismans at all. Outside the yamen, Little N was squatting by the wall, playing with ants with a small wooden stick. Every time Li Qingshan went to trade with Zhou Wenbin, she would wait outside the door. When people came in to talk to her, she ignored them. Under a large poplar tree, a nest of red ants and a nest of black ants were engaged in an intense battle. It was unknown how many ants there were. Although the red ants were slightly smaller in size, they were extremely ferocious and held the upper hand. Little N watched very seriously. The warm autumn sun fell on her cheeks, as though it could penetrate her tender skin. Just as the black ant army was about to be defeated, the small wooden stick in her hand suddenly transformed into a phantom. "Little girl, what are you doing here?" A hooligan with a smile on his face squatted beside Shaoan and said with malicious intent. Little and didn't even raise her head. The hooligan looked left and right, then suddenly picked up Little and slung her over his shoulder and left. Little and didn't resist at all. Her long hair and hands fell down. She still held the small wooden stick in her hand as she stared at the ant nest not far away. The hooligan quickly boarded a carriage, and the carriage sped away. He was overjoyed. If he succeeded, he would get 300 taels of silver. The task his boss had given him couldn't be simpler. Although he might offend the tiger butcher, who would know that he was the one who did it. But he was completely focused on Little and so he didn't notice that the ant war under the poplar tree had suddenly ended. The result of the war was that all the red ants were dead. In that instant, the small wooden stick stabbed 1,000 times, killing all the red ants, but not a single black ant was hurt, not even a single antenna. The carriage sped through the alley and turned into a house. The hooligan carried Little and down. "Boss, it's done." A few men were drinking with their upper bodies bare. They all stood up. "So fast. How can I, Little Zhang, not be fast? But it's really strange. This guy didn't cry or scream along the way. He's probably a mute. I think he's an idiot. I don't know where the tiger butcher picked him up, but he's really handsome. Don't tell me that guy has a taste for this." All the laughter stopped abruptly. They didn't even realize that death was coming. Their expressions froze for a moment, then turned into flames. A moment later, Gu Jianxing walked into the small courtyard in his casual clothes. He asked curiously, "Where did everyone go?" At this moment, Shaoan returned to the yamen. He was still holding the small stick, squatting under the big poplar tree. The black ants had yet to disperse, and the small wooden stick had once again transformed into a series of afterimages. The small commotion under the poplar tree subsided. All the black ants were dead. Little and seemed to have sensed something and suddenly raised his head. "That's easy." Zhou Wenbin personally escorted Li Qingshan out of the yamen. After a moment of thought, he fished out 2 bottles of qi-gathering pills from his 100 treasures pouch and shoved them into Li Qingshan's hands. He said sincerely, "Qingshan, this is for the sake of our friendship. If you have nothing to do, go shopping. Let me have some peace." The autumn wind swept up the fallen leaves, blowing past Li Qingshan, who could understand the hardships of dual cultivation as a demon. Little and tossed aside the wooden stick in her hand and ran over to grab his hand. Li Qingshan smiled at her and waved the items in his hand. "Let's go back. I got my hands on 2 more bottles." In the Hawkwolf Guard, Gu Jian said, "Commander, the kid has been fighting with Zhou Wenbin recently. At noon today, Zhou Wenbin personally escorted the kid out of the yamen. Everyone saw it. I knew it. If it weren't for the fact that he had some sort of connection, why would the kid be so arrogant? And the girl he brought back, I've looked into it too. I don't know her origins. She seems to have appeared out of nowhere. She's called Little N, and she's always been with Li Qingshan. I've sent people over, but for some reason, they haven't succeeded. If we don't do anything, we'll probably be looked down on." Zhuo Zhibua said, "Oof, Zhou Wenbin, do you really think I'm afraid of him? Don't worry, the kid's death has arrived. I'd like to see whether Zhou Wenbin can protect him or not. Go call him over right now." Gu Jian beamed with joy. "Commander, you have an idea?" Various items were strewn across the floor of the small building. Li Qingshan turned his 100 treasures pouch upside down before widening his eyes and searching through it. "What else is there? What else can I trade for?" He was like a gambler who had lost everything, searching for the last bit of value in his house so that he could make a comeback. Little and crouched to one side and held her cheek with one hand, gazing at Li Qingshan pitifully. She thought about how she could help him. Suddenly, she came up with an idea and patted Li Qingshan's shoulder before pointing at her own chest. "You have an idea?" Little and nodded with a smile. As it turned out, apart from forging artifacts, the path of white bone and great beauty could also be used for alchemy. Obviously, the raw materials were still flesh and blood. After serious consideration, Li Qingshan said, "I'm a little hesitant when it comes to eating. And if he went on a killing spree like this, he would definitely be exposed." Seeing that Little and was a little dejected, he pinched her cheek. "But I still have to thank you." Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Opening it, it was Gu Jian who said, "Commander Zhuo requests your presence." Although he was expressionless, there was a strong sense of pride radiating from him. Li Qingshan frowned and lowered his head, seemingly unwilling to agree, but his eyes were shining. He's finally here. Chapter 167. A trap in the morgue, 75 kilometers to the east, there's a village called the Town of Cave. Recently, many men in their prime have died mysteriously. Some people even saw corpses emerging from the morgue on the side of the town. I suspect it's the work of Qi practitioners. Go investigate, Zhuo Zhibua said coldly as he tossed a document before Li Qingshan. Li Qingshan glanced at it and raised his head. Corpses? Don't tell me it's related to the zombie Daoist? As long as he mentioned corpses, he could not help but think of the most wanted criminal of the Hawkwolf Guard of Jiaping City. His strength was evident for him to be able to run amok despite being hunted down by the Hawkwolf Guard for so long. Zhuo Zhibua said, "What? Do you have any objections?" "It's just an investigation." Li Qingshan interrupted him. "Of course not. It's just an investigation. It's not like there's any danger. Don't worry at all, Commander Zhuo. I will investigate it properly. Even if I run into the zombie Daoist, I have my ways of escaping." How could he turn down such a rare opportunity? However, he wanted to hint to Zhuo Zhibua, "Commander Zhuo, if you don't take action personally, you won't be able to kill me." Zhuo Zhibua finally found it rather strange. It was as if Li Qingshan was not afraid of him scheming against him at all. He was not an idiot. He had just been blinded by anger the entire time. Now, he sensed that something was amiss. Did this guy really possess some powerful trump card? "It's inconvenient for the child you brought back to carry out missions with you. She'll stay with the Hawkwolf Guard." He couldn't forget that bottle of spring breeze and rain pill. If it was exchanged for real money, then it would be worth a city, and such a spirit medicine couldn't be bought no matter how much real money was used. "She won't be separated from me. If there's nothing else, I'll be setting off right now." Li Qingshan became stern and left. 75 kilometers was not particularly far to Li Qingshan. With little N, he arrived at the Town of Cave around midnight. Li Qingshan followed the empty streets until he reached the outskirts of the town. He arrived before a gloomy building and raised his head. The signboard read, "Morgue." There were many foreigners who died in a foreign land due to accidents or serious illnesses, and no one took care of their funeral. The morgue was a place for their corpses. One day, when their families found them, they would bring their corpses back to their hometown for burial. This was originally a righteous act, but there were many corpses piled up in the manor, and no one had collected them for many years. Yin Qi gathered, and resentment grew, making it extremely easy for ghosts to form. Therefore, feng shui was very particular, and mages were often invited to expiate souls. However, this morgue was overgrown with weeds and half of its walls had collapsed. Everything was filled with a sense of decadence. It was obvious that it had been abandoned for a long time and probably didn't have such good treatment. If he wanted to investigate, this was the most suitable place to start. In order to get Li Qingshan to agree, Zhuo Zhibua gave him quite a lot of merit points for this trip. In any case, it was useless no matter how many merit points a dead man had. However, what Li Qingshan thought was that once he finished off Zhuo Zhibua, he would obviously be able to exchange the merit for pills. Arriving at the entrance of the morgue, Li Qingshan took out the wind-entwining blade first before taking out the small shield and carrying it in his left hand. Finally, he placed over 20 talismans into a talisman pouch, hanging it on his waist so that he could use it at any time. Although he was confident in his strength, he was no fool. It was very likely for this trip to be related to the 6th-layer Qi practitioner, the zombie Daoist, and it was very likely for the other 6th-layer Qi practitioner, Zhuo Zhibua, to arrive afterwards, eyeing him from the darkness. How could he be careless? Obviously, he had to raise his guard to the maximum, just in case he failed miserably. Only after making all his preparations did he step over the door sill and enter the morgue. There were several dozen coffins in the morgue. Some were extremely old, while others were brand new. The ground was covered in paper money. As the cold wind blew, the tattered curtains swayed like ghosts. It was indescribably strange. If a regular person saw this, they would definitely be frightened out of their wits. However, Li Qingshan was someone who had killed his way through mountains of corpses and seas of blood after all. He radiated with killing intent. On the other hand, he looked at Little and beside him. His eyes were wide open, showing no fear at all. Instead, he seemed rather eager. His feelings towards corpses were probably similar to Li Qingshan's feelings towards qi-gathering pills. Li Qingshan arrived before a pitch-black coffin. He drew the wind-entwining blade and stabbed it into the gap between the lid and the coffin. With a twist of his wrist, the lid was lifted high into the air, falling to the ground. A middle-aged man lay in the coffin. He was bruised all over, having been reduced to a corpse long ago. Li Qingshan wondered how he had died as he walked away. It was not like he was a coroner, so it was obviously impossible for him to perform some sort of midnight autopsy. He had only opened the coffin because he was bored and wanted to take a look. He was waiting here for Zhuozhibua to appear. The morgue was located in the wilderness and far away from the town. It was a good place for him to fight Zhuozhibua. He was still wondering if he should set up some sort of trap. Li Qingshan had just turned around when the man in the coffin behind him suddenly opened his white eyes. Two fangs protruded from his mouth, and he was just about to attack when he saw a little girl leaning against the side of the coffin. She stared at him with an extremely serious expression, and then placed her index finger on his forehead. Li Qingshan turned his head. "Don't eat random things. I don't even know how many years it's been." Little and stuck out her tongue. Just as she withdrew her finger from flowing fire, the coffin was already empty. Her heart suddenly stirred. There seemed to be the aura of a living person here. She closed her eyes, and indeed, she could sense that there were living people hiding in the surrounding coffins. Just as Li Qingshan wandered into the hall, runes suddenly lit up beneath his feet. He felt a huge gravitational force coming from beneath his feet. It was as if his body was weighed down by 1,000 caddies, and the circulation of true qi in his body immediately became sluggish. At the same time, the lids of the new coffins suddenly flew open. 5 figures leapt out from within, raising their hands and aiming at Li Qingshan. The springs began to spin, and arrows shot out in a continuous stream. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. Although there were 5 of them, they were like an army of 10,000 arrows shooting at the same time. Countless arrows came from all directions and from all angles. There was no space for him to dodge. The shield in Li Qingshan's left hand suddenly grew in size, protecting his entire body. There was a dull thud, thud, thud. Following that, there was a loud explosion. The moment the arrows hit the shield, they all exploded together. The power was astonishing. If they were shot into his body and then exploded, he would definitely die. Behind Li Qingshan, there was also a loud explosion. However, he didn't even turn his head. Little and had already pulled out her hidden blade. Layers of sword shadows appeared, and with incomparable precision, each arrow fell to the ground. But under their feet, there were densely packed runes. More runes lit up, surrounding Li Qingshan and Little N, and the pressure on their bodies became heavier. The shield fell to the ground with a loud bang. "Senior brother, we caught him," a pleasantly surprised voice said. What responded to this voice was a snow-white blade. After Li Qingshan left, Zhuozhibua leaned back in his chair and closed his eyes to rest. Gu Jian stood to one side, afraid to ask anything. Quite a while later, Zhuozhibua's eyes snapped open. "Gu Jian, go call people over. We're going to reinforce Li Qingshan." Gu Jian beamed, but he was also puzzled. "Commander, is there a need for such a large group?" If he really was afraid that Li Qingshan would not die, Zhuozhibua could just go alone. It would be easier for him to deceive others and draw a clear line between them. "Just call them when I tell you to," Zhuozhibua said in displeasure. He felt slightly uneasy inside. He also began to realize that Li Qingshan might not be as easy to deal with as he imagined him to be. "Yes, Commander." Before long, Gu Jian arrived before Zhuozhibua with 6 black wolf guards. Li Qingshan had basically spoken to all of them before. When he wanted to exchange contribution for spiritual artifacts and pills, He had been obstructed by these people. The people Zhuo told Gujian to call were obviously not regular Black Wolf guards, but his true subordinates. Looking at these people, the sliver of unease in Zhuo's heart gradually vanished, while his hatred towards Li Qingshan intensified. Now that he had reached this point, it was no longer possible for him to reconcile with Li Qingshan. He had to kill him. Zhuo said, "Do you know why I've called you here? Is it for that Li Qingshan?" Zhuo said, "Exactly. That kid has gone too far. If I don't kill him, I won't be able to resolve my hatred. Forgive me for being blunt, but that Li Qingshan might be capable, but he's only a second-layer Qi practitioner. He's not worthy of us working together against him," said a half-bald Black Wolf guard who seemed to be in his 60s. His name was Xianxia. He was a veteran of the Jiaping Hawkwolf Guard, as well as the strongest among them. He was bold enough to question Zhuo's orders. The others were the same. Zhuo knew he had to give them a reasonable reason. "Old Xie, I've already told the zombie Daoist about Li Qingshan. I said I'd give him a great gift. A body practitioner is great material for refining corpses. I refuse to believe he won't be tempted." A mighty Black Hawk commander of the Hawkwolf Guard had actually colluded with the most wanted criminal, and he had sold his subordinates to the enemy. None of the Black Wolf Guards present found this strange. Xianxia said, "Then there's even less of a need for us to do anything." The old Daoist's ability to refine and nurture corpses is startling. Even regular 6th-layer Qi practitioners aren't his opponent. Li Qingshan is dead for sure. Zhuo said, "The old Daoist has been hiding in the zombie cave the entire time, so we've never been able to do anything to him. If we can lure him out and kill him this time, it'll be a great merit. The old Daoist has quite a lot of good stuff on him. As for killing Li Qingshan, it'll just be a piece of cake." Xianxia clasped his hands. "Commander is wise and farsighted. I'm nowhere near as good as you, so I'm willing to follow your lead." The other Black Wolf guards answered loudly as well. The zombie Daoist had a bounty of over 10,000 points of contribution on his head. If it was split among them, it would be no less than 1,000 points of contribution. They could exchange for quite a lot of good stuff. When the sky was about to brighten, a total of 8 Hawkwolf guards left Jiaping under Zhuo's lead, pursuing Li Qingshan. This was an extremely terrifying force. It was enough to easily flatten many small sects and clans. A few Hawkwolf guards watched this from the square below the huge hawk as they discussed among themselves. "TSK, Li Qingshan is probably done for this time." The Hawkwolf guard with the bulbous nose shook his head and sighed. "Keep your voice down. Don't talk carelessly," warned a Black Wolf guard beside him. "What's there to be afraid of? All the snitches have gone with Commander Zhuo." The bulbous nose did not care. "What are you talking about?" A cold voice rang out from behind them. "Welcome to Legends of Cultivation, audiobooks, where we bring ancient fantasy to life through storytelling. Follow the rise of heroes who defy fate, unlock mystical powers, and battle across celestial realms. Our audiobooks are crafted for fans of Chinese cultivation novels, filled with battles, breakthroughs, and legendary artifacts. Subscribe and be part of an unforgettable journey into the realm of immortality."